Alexander, brave soul who came forward to speak.
Brave.
Yay.
Yay.
Thanks, everyone.
She's a modern kid. She's real funny.
Hi, I'm Rachel Alexander, and I will be sharing Layleen Polanco's story. Layleen Extravaganza Cubalete Polanco was a 27-year-old Afro-Latino transgender woman who was killed on June 7, 2019 by the New York City Rikers Island complex officials, captains, and medical staff. I'm here to tell you a short version of her story so that she may be remembered. Layleen Polanco was a very beloved woman. She had a bubbly and loving personality. She was a member of the New York City drag race scene and joined a ballroom group named House of Extravaganza. She spent a long time trying to find jobs or access schooling, but Melania Brown, her sister, states that Layleen faced many barriers as a black trans woman. In 2019, she faced misdemeanor assault charges and a prostitution charge, and was held at bail for $500. As she was unable to pay this bail, she was sent to New York City's Rikers Prison Complex, a jail complex known for its high levels of violence, abuse, and neglect of incarcerated people. Within the first 2 weeks of her time at Rikers, Layleen experienced 2 recorded seizures, as she had a well-known history of epilepsy. She also started to show symptoms of significant mental struggle. She was facing consistent panic attacks, hallucinations, and other signs of psychological distress. After Layleen unfortunately faced 2 physical altercations with individuals in the complex during a time of deep mental struggle, correctional officers decided to punish her. It was then suggested by prison officers that she go into solitary confinement for 20 days as a form of punishment. She was then about to face additional punishment after initially being sent to Rikers pre-trial for not being able to afford her bail. Solitary confinement meant that she could be isolated in her cell alone for more than 20 hours a day. But before this solitary confinement plan was solidified, the jail psychiatrist looked at her record and noted her long history with epilepsy. They refused to send her to solitary confinement for safety reasons, as she needed more consistent aid. Yet one single correctional doctor made the choice to isolate her anyway. Later, the Board of Corrections, an oversight panel, found that she had not been granted medical clearance for isolation when she was sent to confinement. At this point, it seems she was at a moment of peak vulnerability in her life. And instead of receiving help, she was neglected, ignored, and left to struggle alone. Despite the jail's mandatory check-ins on solitary confinement inmates every 15 minutes, Polanco was left unattended and completely alone for an inhumane amount of time, given her medical record and mental state. In the hours leading up to her death, she was ignored for periods of 35, 41, and 57 minutes. 35, 41, and 57. Later that day, she was found dead due to preventable seizures. After months of New York City's denial of causing Polanco's death, 17 officials, including one captain, were said to be disciplined for the role their negligence played in her murder. 17 officials. She was denied help at every moment of need and was carelessly and intentionally abandoned by the prison system when her life depended on it. Since then, New York City agreed to pay the Polanco family $5.9 million for the murder of Layleen. And 4 of the 17 officials have faced job suspension without pay. But we know that is not enough. Melania Brown, Layleen's sister, demanded that the officers involved were fired, that the New York City end solitary confinement, and that Rikers Island jails are closed. After years of continued advocacy, New York City decided to end solitary confinement with the intention to specifically aid medically vulnerable people who are incarcerated. In October of 2020, the city also declared it would close Rikers Island, but by 2027. We know this is not soon enough. In January of this year, hundreds of inmates at Rikers staged a days-long hunger protest, to fight against the continually inhumane treatment and overall jail conditions at Rikers Island. There are thousands of inmates there right now, 56% who are Black. Layleen's death and the horrendous experiences she faced touch on systemic inequities based on race, class, gender, disability status, and transness. To this day, Black transgender women are being incarcerated at 10 times the rate of the general population. Additionally, NYPD officers released statements in another case where they noted that they target transgender women when making prostitution arrests for initial charge. More needs to be done, and there's much more we can do. May Layleen's life be remembered.